you have fun, right?
Yeah.
What's going on? I'm hanging with Timmy from SeeYouSpaceCowboy. We're looking there, we're looking there, we're looking there. Hell yeah, you gotta say hi to all three, right?
What's going on? What's going on?
Right on. How you doing, man?
I'm doing all right. How are you doing?
Dude, you're a fucking rad player, dude.
Thank you.
I caught your set. It was a lot of fun. I like all that layering, kind of melodic, atmospheric shit you're doing on the guitar. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, as you can tell, I'm not much of a shredder, soloer type guy. I kind of just like, I like to sit in the back pocket and just kind of play chunky chords. That's kind of been my style these days, more so.
I mean, listen, chunky chords and the fat stacked rhythms is kind of what makes the tune, in my opinion. So
Totally.
you're killing it.
Yeah.
I'm really stoked to have you on the show. This is Defender the Riff. We talk about riffs, shocking. It's all about guitar, man. It's less about accolades and less about the bullshit and more about the real stuff. Why we do this and you know what you're really excited about musically. So I kind of want to start and get your story from the beginning in terms of your earliest musical influences. I know that in this band specifically, you started on bass, so there's definitely a story there.
Oh, yeah.
Why don't you bring me all the way back? Tell me about like some of the first sounds that really caught your ear and really made you want to pick up an instrument.
Well, I mean, even before that, growing up in Southern California, where I grew up, big sports community. Everyone played football, everyone played soccer, everyone played baseball. I like playing baseball, but I was bad at everything. So
San Diego?
I grew up in Orange County.
Okay.
The rest of the band's from San Diego. I'm from Orange County.
All right.
Big baseball town. Loved it, but wasn't any good at it. So figured I'd take a stab at music and kind of found my footing there. And that was kind of a byproduct of being bad at sports, which I feel like is more common than not.
I feel like I kind of have a parallel with that. My dad from Canada, so it was all about hockey.
Okay.
My dad was like, my son's gonna be a hockey player, and put me in hockey and drive me to the rink at 6 a.m. And guess what? I didn't really take to hockey.
Yeah.
I ended up using the hockey sticks as like fake air guitars more than anything, you know?
That's what's up.
So I feel that.
Kind of got my footing jamming around with people that I grew up with. I went to a smaller school for middle school, but it wasn't until I got to high school and kind of started meeting like-minded people to a degree. A lot of my friends were punks, and like, SeeYouSpaceCowboy is a metalcore band. We're all living that fantasy of playing the kind of music we wanted to play when we were 14.
Right.
But all of our punk friends said it was lame. So here we are at 28 doing it.
Here we are, 28, playing riffs and drop C and loving it, right?
Exactly.
That's awesome. So what were some of those? Were you always like metalcore, or was there like, did you get in through classic rock, or what are your earliest sounds that you get into?
I mean, growing up, I grew up in like a classic rock, power pop house. Like
Nice.
Linda Ronstadt and Todd Rundgren were always playing. But that was before I really took to music. I learned how to play guitar by learning Enema of the State by Blink-182
Right on.
in full, which again, I feel like is a parallel that many other musicians in our scene.
Especially the age group as well. There was no bigger, cooler band than Blink at the time, right?
So that kind of like, that showed me what palm mutes were and kind of like a little bit of movement in the riffs around, but like, I don't know, came up listening to like the bands that you find getting into punk, like Black Flag, Misfits, and stuff like that. But it wasn't until I found bands like Exodus, where like, that was like, okay, chugs, like elaborating on that. And then from thrash metal, I started hearing more like kind of scene adjacent stuff. Like the first like Panic chord I ever heard was All's Well That Ends Well, Chiodos, the end breakdown of There's No Penguins in Alaska, where it's just like,
if you spent your teenage years listening to Exodus riffs and then you hear that, that could melt your brain totally. I get that.
Yeah.
That's crazy. I love that you bring up Exodus too, because Gary Holt has always kind of said in a lot of the guitar interviews I see him do, he talks about how like, you got to take that step. You can't play it like a punk riff anymore. You got to dig in. You got to play it like a metal riff.
Yeah, and like even up through like the last couple years that I started playing more guitar in these heavier bands, like people are like, yo, you got to dig on those palm mutes a little more. You gotta make it mean, you know? And it's just like, it's not something you can communicate. You just got to feel it. You know?
Absolutely. No, it's all about that chonk and digging and getting your hand involved, right?
Exactly.
Hell yeah. Aside from like, you know, listening and to music and finding Blink-182 and learning Enema, it was like, your first guitar? Was it a hand-me-down? Do you come from a musical house? Were they musicians, or were they just listening to good tunes?
So my mom plays guitar, and growing up, when I first started learning guitar, she has a 1974 Guild. I don't remember the exact model number, but it's still in my family. It plays beautifully.
Guilds are rad, dude,
Yeah.
especially from that era.
And that's when I started chopping on it. But the first guitar that I ever had was just a Takamine acoustic guitar.
Right on.
I got it maybe when I was like 10 years old.
Yeah.
But then for my birthday when I was 12, I got my first electric guitar, which was they don't make them anymore. They make them out of the LTD line, but it was ESP X-Tone. I don't know if you're familiar with it.
I'm not.
It's a semi-hollow.
Oh, cool.
And that was actually the guitar that I had on the road with me for Cowboy for the last couple years.
Oh yeah, the semi-hollow bodies.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's actually an ESP.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And then I think there's like a signature model for the guy from the Dillinger Escape Plan.
Right.
The Ben Wyman signature guitar.
Scotland. Yeah, that's with the F-holes in. Yeah, exactly.
So.
That guitar's crazy. He put his he carved out a hole in the back for his wireless unit because he's so fucking insane on stage.
Yeah, and it's like modded.
That's
up
awesome.
the ass.
Yeah, that's right.
Can I swear on here?
You can say literally whatever the fuck you want.
Sweet.
Timmy, the stage is yours, man.
Let's
say
go.
it. Don't filter yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, those guitars are rad, and yeah, Weinman has his shit modded to the max because you've seen the way he plays. It's no one does what he does.
He's got the Evertune on it too, which it's like I thought about doing that to my guitar, but I was like, it's the first guitar I ever had. I retired it from the road this tour after grabbing this Dunable, and I was just like, I love the way it sounds, but if anything happens to it on the road, like I will never recover from that. So it's now safely at home.
That's where some of the nicest guitars are meant to stay, is at home in the vault. Keep them,
Yeah, maybe in the studio at some point, but yeah.
You gotta be willing to beat the shit out of an instrument on the road and be cool with damage, especially if you're flying and stuff. Like you kind of need to be open-minded to shit happening and getting dings and buckle rash and whatever. You know?
Yeah, and every tour I kept taking it on, I just would get more and more nervous. I'm like, I'm just playing with time here right now.
Yeah.
But no, it's rad. This Dunable's sick too. I play a Fender as well, but I just kind of bounce between these two, and it's been rad.
That's rad. What's the story with bass? Like, did you start playing bass in bands when you were younger, or was that strictly for this band? How does that happen?
So the first few bands I played in, I actually played drums. They were just really bad punk bands when I was in high school. Got around to playing guitar in more like emo-leaning bands, more like indie rock-leaning bands. But then by the time I started touring, that was when I kind of pivoted over to bass. And I always felt more comfortable playing bass guitar over guitar anyway.
Yeah.
And the last like 3 bands that I was on the road with, I was playing bass. So when Cowboy was all getting started back in the day, it was a combination of 2 bands where Taylor, Connie, and Ethan had SeeYouSpaceCowboy, and I was writing with our original guitar player for another band, but we ended up merging the bands. I was playing bass. It was fun. It's just big open notes. I'm throwing my shit through the ceiling.
Yeah.
But hopscotch around, pandemic happens, members leave, members come back. So Taylor, who was our original guitar player, is now playing bass. Ethan, who started on drums in the band, is now playing guitar. And he was the one who reached out to me and was like, hey, we're going to try to tour after the pandemic again. You want to come back and play guitar? And I was like, I don't play guitar, but I guess. But I was like, well, we'll figure it out. So
it's only 2 extra strings.
Exactly.
And they're the most fun strings.
Yeah, I was saying earlier, these are the panic chord strings. So.
The panic chord, the one that changed the game changer for you.
Very synonymous with SeeYouSpaceCowboy these days.
So you talk about playing drums. I find there's like a big parallel, especially in metalcore worlds, with drummers who switch to guitar and having a better sense of rhythm. Did you get deep enough into drums to think that like the rhythm element of it made you a better player on guitar?
No, not at all. I mean, maybe to a degree. It probably helped transitioning into guitar, because I played a little bit of piano as a kid too, and I think that really kind of helped me anchor down understanding how to play in like a group environment.
Right.
Because with drums, just bad punk bands, so I just learned how to do really bad D beats.
Yeah. Hell yeah. There's no such thing as a really bad D beat, man.
Yeah.
The D beat's supposed to sound like your grandma falling down the stairs sometimes.
There you go.
Yeah. Because I find that people who understand rhythm on a drum level can transition really well to guitar, especially like the chonky. You know, you're talking about down tune and breakdowns and all the chonky stuff. I feel like there's like a really important parallel there between like rhythm playing drums and guitar.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure, man. what were the names of these early bands? You keep saying like the first 3 bands you were touring with. You got this like, you know, you gotta leave the Easter eggs out for your fans to find out what you were doing before.
That's fair. The very first group that I had was named after you say you're from Canada, Canadian band, Career Suicide. They have
right on.
They have a song called Recipe for Disaster. So it was, you know, very apt to what a 13-year-old would name their subpar punk band.
It's a great band name, to be honest.
Yeah.
I see no issues.
Yeah. First band I went on tour with was a band called Kip, and it was just kind of like a noodly emo band. And then I did a couple tours with a band called Fistbenders as well, which was more of that same. But then took some time away, was just doing music at home, just doing some like piano stuff. Around the time that we all kind of started to get together through Cowboy, which we all met each other through our old bands. You know, Fistbenders, my band, would play shows with Connie and Ethan's old band, Flowers Taped to Pens. Would play shows with Taylor's old band, Recluse. So it was just kind of a hodgepodge of Southern California bands linking and realizing, oh, we all like Heavy Heavy Lolo. Let's start a band that sounds like Heavy Heavy Lolo.
Let's go.
You know?
I think that's kind of like how the best bands come to fruition is, you know, maybe you come from another project that isn't totally doing it for you anymore and you meet someone else through that scene. I think it's like the best way for musicians to come together.
Totally.
We were talking before we started rolling, you were telling me that you do some teaching at home.
Yes.
And this is what I love, and this is really at the core of what this show is really about to me, is understanding why people do this and why they're so passionate about it. Clearly you love music. You played in bands what sounds like your whole young life.
Pretty much.
You teach when you're at home.
Yeah.
You've played all the instruments. What is it about music and this lifestyle that like really does it for you? Because there's way easier ways to make a living.
Yes.
There's way more stable ways to live your life. This is not the road isn't the easiest way that people always think it may be. Full disclosure, we're sitting in a tent. It's 100 degrees. He just finished a set. We're both sweating our ass off.
In a field in Sacramento, California.
And we couldn't be happier.
Oh, yeah.
And that's the whole thing. Like, what is it that really makes you tick about this lifestyle?
I think the biggest thing was, like, I went to school to be a teacher, and I did that for quite a while. I did it for 5 years, and as we were talking about, I played bass in the band, but I stepped down and I was gone for a while. So I strictly was just working my teaching job at home for 3 years. But I think that, like, while I'm passionate about working with kids, like, a part of me was itching to get back out on the road because I was just like, I feel like I'm in my element. I have a good routine when I'm on the road and, keeps me level. So when the opportunity presented itself to come back, I figured I'd be an idiot not to do that,
I mean, it's pretty much the coolest job in the world.
Yeah.
It's not for everyone, though. That's what, I'm trying to, like, emphasize that point. It's not all rainbows and fucking bubble gums.
Exactly. And now having a job at home that is understanding of that, because I'm a music teacher at, like, a private music school.
Oh, cool.
And they get that. They're like, yeah, let us know when you're going on tour. And because, for lack of a better way to put it, it's a selling point. It's like, hey, little Johnny's teacher is going and doing a full U.S. tour. Like, maybe if he takes lessons under him, maybe he'll be doing the same thing or something like that, So it's like, it works both ways. Like, I get to do what I need to do, but then I also get that gratification at home of, like, working with kids, which is a passion of mine, but then also getting to play music all day. Kind of like you're doing right now. Like, I just, like, when I go to work, I just get to sit and play guitar all day.
Which is pretty much living the dream, if you ask me. That's awesome. Was your teaching job prior? You said you were teaching for 3 years. Was that, like secular studies, or were you teaching music?
I worked at a public high school. I worked in special ed for 3 years.
Wow, that's awesome.
But then once I started touring again, I was like, gotta find something that works at home. So I was able to get a job at a music school, and it's been a blast, so.
That's awesome, dude. That's rad. So what's next with the band? You guys doing a little festival run right now? What are you guys up to?
Yeah, we're out on tour with Nothing Nowhere, Static Dress, and Unity TX. This is our last tour of the year. We just dropped a couple new songs as well. First couple releases in the last couple of years since our last full length, and nothing announced yet, but keep your eyes peeled.
All three, yeah. Keep
All three.
your eyes peeled.
Yeah,
there you go.
That was better than what I did.
Well, I mean, we're working together. We're playing off each other, right?
There you go.
You started it. That's awesome, man. I want to kind of dig in a little bit about some players. I like to kind of get an idea of who your guitar heroes were growing up.
Oh, man.
Like, I don't know about you, I was like a guitar player nerd. Like,
okay.
I wouldn't hang posters of bands, I would hang posters of guitar players.
Yeah.
Were there any guys who, like, just really made you think that this was the coolest shit in the world?
The first, I mean, obviously we were talking about Blink-182.
Yeah.
I thought I was Tom DeLonge from age 9 to 12, you know.
Were you carving shit in your guitars too and stickering bombing?
Big black tube socks.
That's
up all
awesome.
the way, Dickies below the knee.
That's awesome.
But no, I would say music kind of clicked for me on I want to do this and I want to do this crazy kind of moment when I would first start seeing videos of At the Drive-In. And I would see Omar Rodriguez-Lopez throwing his shit everywhere.
Yeah.
And did it sound great? No. But did it look cool? Yeah. And I mean, that's the whole shtick of our band too. It's I try to play the best that I can, but I'm just trying to get crazy, you know.
For sure.
So
listen, if people didn't want to, have an experience, they could sit at home and listen to an album. I'm a full believer in coming to a live show and experiencing something that you can't experience at home.
Yeah.
And I just watched you play. That's exactly what you guys bring.
Hell yeah.
It's a fucking spectacle.
Thank you.
Hell yeah, man.
And it's nice to have all that room on a big festival stage too, because that means the antics are bigger, and that means the playing's probably a little messier, but that's okay.
Dude, what you lack in precision on a big stage, you can certainly make up by doing backflips and somersaults off the drum riser, right?
Could be said.
Hell yeah,
could
man.
Be said.
Well, I think you're really sick at playing those panic chords. I would love if you took us out with a little riff or something. Give me something diminished and mean sounding to end it off. Hell yeah, Timmy. Dude, you're the shit.
Sweet.
Appreciate hanging with you. Thanks so much for being on Defender the Riff, dude.
Sweet. Thank you for having me.
Hell yeah, we'll catch you soon.
Yes.
Cheers.
Music's everywhere, it's everything, and it's the greatest gift you'll ever give yourself. If you teach yourself guitar, you take lily, whatever you do, any instrument you get into, because it's something you're going to have forever. You know what I mean? It's you might be into this, you might be wherever you are right now in your life, but you won't be there in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, and it seems like it's fiction, right? I used to hear that shit when I was, you learn whatever. I'm yeah, maybe one day when I'm 40, I'll get into jazz. Well, I'll be 50 here in not that much time, so... and I still haven't got into jazz because I got more headbanging to do, but...
Yeah, I haven't seen you start your jazz side project yet.
No, I haven't even started practicing. No, I got a long way. I don't know.
I started as a drummer. And so it all started for me with my dad showing me the Black Album, right when it first... So I was 2, and I remember hearing the Black Album for the first time. I was like, this is the greatest thing ever, and it changed my life forever from there. I started to go as I got a little bit older. I stole the Black Album from my dad and started going backwards through the Metallica discography. And I had started playing drums in the orchestral band at school, so I just gravitated towards asking for a drum set. And then Lars was my guy. He was my North Star forever. And I know that people shit on Lars all day long, but I'll stab you. Don't say anything about my guy. And then at some point, I started realizing that while drums are really cool and I enjoy playing them, I can't really write a song unless I can play guitar.
We've always loved the big heavy riffs, so I guess when 311 started, it was we would have a heavy riff, but then there would be rapping over it.
Yeah.
So combining those two styles, that was a pretty new thing at the time. There was hybrid music, we called it, so it was that's kind of where it started.
You yourself, you never really aspired to be have a James Hetfield voice. Did you never wanted to growl 80s style like that? You were into either rapping or melodic singing, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've more of a baritone range. I loved Jim Morrison.
Yeah.
I love crooners like Frank Sinatra.
Well, I think by the time I was growing up, I was a kid of the late 70s, early 80s. We didn't have the internet, we didn't have TikTok or YouTube, but by that time everybody had a TV, obviously.
Yeah.
Most people had cable TV. Pop culture was everywhere, so you could not help but be affected by pop culture. And just from songs I would hear in pop culture, I started getting interested in music.
back when music was ubiquitous, just constantly everywhere, all around you, and
Yeah, so like television shows and movies.
right.
Like this sound right here, this is one of the first things I remember that got me excited about music. You know, the spy chord.
Yeah.
Or the this type of riff, like.
Legendary.
The first band I ever really got into was just Nirvana and shit. Like, Nirvana is just one of the best alternative bands ever and shit. I mean, yeah, it's
The riff that changed all of our lives.
yeah, it's literally,
let's be real.
literally, yeah, essentially. What about you, Crowd?
I got into guitar through Metallica. I saw them in 2016, and something about that kind of strikes you.
Yeah, you like that low tuning Metallica. Yeah, that D shit.
If an international band comes to your city, like you go and see them, like, and I feel like, I guess it's still like that now. I feel like, but now that we're a lot older, it's, you know, you see it from like the other side of like where the band coming to their city, and they, you know, we get to meet fans now that go like, you know, I've waited so long for you to come to my city, and you know, just so happy you're here. And that was just us when we were 15, 16 years old, going to see bands.
And it feels really cool now because we're in the position to bring our favorite international bands to our home and showcase them to our peers, our family, our friends. Like, we were seeing these bands when we were that age. So it feels cool to bring people out to Australia.
Very full circle.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you guys, not to self-plug here on a Knotfest show, but you guys did play the first ever Knotfest Australia.
Oh,
With
yeah.
Parkway Drive.
Where is Parkway Drive?
I swear, if we ask a single question and the answer is not Parkway Drive, something is very wrong, okay?
Yeah.
Sick. Everyone, we're hanging with Brendan Small. Duh. Defender of the Riff with Daniel Dekay. Great to have you, man.
Great to be here. Thanks for having me. Yeah, it's nice to be here. It's nice to be out of the house.
Hell yeah. A little savage
Right,
get the
yeah,
blood
why not?
flowing
Little
every day,
intro.
man. Hell yeah. Well, Wayne, what do you do? What is this? Is this a Defender of the Riff exclusive? We've got Wayne from Hatebreed at Aftershock.
Just
not
hanging,
even playing a
not
set.
playing, just a
hanging.
spectator.
That's
Spectator
it.
sport.
Dude, when I
Enjoying the time.
When I see you walk into the room, I'm like, all right, there's Wayne. We're getting him to do Defender of the Riff. Hell yeah. Almost in tune, right?
Almost, yeah.
Almost, yeah. Listen, it's a hot day. These are thin gauge strings.
No,
We're
yeah.
testing the waters now. We're in drop B.
Hell yeah.
Fucking love it. Chase Wilson, my dude, my dog.
My guy.
Run into you here at Aftershock.